Greetings and welcome to this edition of Faith to Live By. I'm Pam Christian, your host and truth advocate, where each week I help us explore current events from a biblical and prophetic perspective, so we, as God's children, can know how He wants us to respond in partnership with Him to see His kingdom will done on earth as it is in heaven. My faithful listeners know I've spent considerable time helping us gain understanding of what's really going on in our world by exploring current events in light of the publicly known plans and schemes of the evil, self-appointed elite who have been advancing their globalist agenda through politics, governments, and economic systems, and more for hundreds of years. By design, they have created an incredibly complex system to keep the majority of people ignorant, allowing them to continue to advance their evil plans to take over world control. It's so refreshing that I can openly explain this with confidence that the vast majority of people are now awake to this truth that the globalists tried to keep under wraps through propaganda for the purpose of mind control. It's common knowledge now that the corrupt CIA, with the help of other intelligence agencies and governmental leaders, coined the slur conspiracy theorists as a means to prevent people from probing any deeper and potentially uncover their cover-ups. This means of shaming people by calling them conspiracy theorists was popularized against those who did not accept the official narrative surrounding President John F. Kennedy's assassination. Very similar tactics have been used against people who have challenged governmental operations, financial systems, personal lives of celebrities and political figures, and much more. However, advancement of evil corruption has become so apparent that people all over the world are finally seeing it and openly rejecting this evil. Since 2020, when I started this podcast, my entire focus has been to research and expose lies, deception, corruption, and the like, so those of us who oppose such evil can effectively resist its advancement and restore law and order. The focus of today's podcast is the restoration of our world economic systems, which by extension also brings reform to governments, militaries, elections, taxation, jobs, social benefits, immigration, and more. And my guest today, Dr. Scott Young, will be sharing with us various proofs that indicate the time for actually seeing these reforms is upon us. This is why I'm really excited to bring us the opportunity to plan a vacation in Greece in April 2026. I don't know about you, but my husband and I did not take any vacation in 2020 through 2022 because of COVID restrictions. And since February 2023, we've actually had to cancel 4 vacations. I am more than ready to travel, and April 2026 seems like the perfect time. If you want to travel to Greece and be part of a ground tour called The Footsteps of Paul, where we will experience the very places the Apostle Paul walked and taught, and enjoy all the culture and ambience of Greece and their amazing cuisine, staying in 4-star hotels for 7 nights with the additional option of a 4-night cruise of the Greek islands following, then you want to get your name on the list of reservations right away. Providing your name now assures you will be contacted near July 1st when initial deposits are due. Space is limited, so visit my webpage called Beyond the Podcast using the link in the show notes to learn about the deposits and cancellation dates and also about optional travel insurance to protect your deposit. It's already June 4th, so don't let more time go by without being sure you have your first right of refusal by placing your name on the reservation list. Get your name on that list by sending me an email with the word Greece in the subject line, your complete contact information in the body of the email, and the total number of people in your party. And by the way, the more people who go, the less the cost for everybody. So bring as many people as you can with you. Then expect a follow-up email to confirm your reservation with your deposit around July 1st and allow us to also learn of any special accommodations or requests you want us to take care of. I don't know if you heard, but in this first quarter of 2025, the United States economy grew 4.6%. Inflation in April dropped to 2.1%. Personal income increased by 0.8%. And we've seen the largest monthly drop in trade deficits due to President Trump's powerful tariffs. And egg prices have dropped 61%. And this is just the first quarter of the year. The old adage asking, what's that got to do with the price of bread, is now updated to asking about the price of eggs. I've spent a lot of time researching and explaining how our economy has been controlled by the banking institutions who have also had considerable control on governments and nations, and how removal of the gold standard from currency has allowed the proliferation of banking cartels, money laundering, wars, human and drug trafficking, and corrupt government by self-appointed elite who, with no regard for God, seek to rule the world. I've talked about central bank digital currency, the Bank of International Settlements, the formation of the BRICS nations, and how all of this has raised up righteous men and women who have been working to establish the quantum financial system, the restoration of a gold standard, and the establishment of NESARA, GESARA, which are acronyms for National or Global Economic Security and Recovery Act, that was first introduced in the 1990s. I encourage you to listen to my previous podcasts, specifically 244, 245, 46, and 47, to gain general understanding about our economies. And what makes all of this especially interesting is how every bit of this seems to be setting the stage for the radical transference of wealth spoken of in the Bible. There are several places in the Bible that speak to this. Perhaps the most known is Proverbs chapter 13, verse 22, which states, "A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, but the sinner's wealth is laid up for the righteous." End quote. I have had numerous excellent guests, such as Alex Newman, Clay Clark, Pastor David Scarlett, and Dr. Scott Young, to name a few, and I've also researched the work of many well-respected scholars and others from Hillsdale College and Heritage Foundation, and people like Todd Callender, David Jensen, Martin Armstrong, and others. Today, once again, I have Dr. Scott Young on as my guest, and I've done my best to ask the questions I think you would want to ask. But if you still have some questions that I didn't get around to asking, just send me an email so that I can ask the questions for you. You can reach me at faithtoliveby@PamelaChristianMinistries.com. You'll hear Dr. Scott say that the reality of financial reform really seemed to gain credible traction when President Trump began campaigning heavily with the lead "no tax on tips." As he'll explain, that single consideration was not isolated, but presented as the tip of the spear concept for overhauling our entire tax and economic system. Also, to keep us on the same page, DOGE, which is the Department of Government Efficiency, has revealed excessive taxation, deliberate hiding of actual government spending, money laundering, bribes and blackmail that have been occurring using our taxpayer dollars for centuries as evil, self-appointed elite people have sought power and control. The central banking system, the International Monetary Fund, the IRS, and much more are all part of this intricate, evil financial system. A new system that has been proposed to help clean up the swamp includes what's known as the Quantum Financial System, or QFS. This is a financial system that leverages quantum computing, artificial intelligence, and blockchain technology to create more secure, transparent, and efficient financial infrastructure. It promises enhanced security, real-time transactions, and decentralization, potentially revolutionizing the traditional financial landscape. Additionally, there has been a lot of behind-the-scenes effort to get rid of the fiat or petrodollar that has allowed the United States government to print money at will and replace it with gold-backed standard, giving real value to the currency and economic system. You've likely heard of the BRICS nations, which are Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, along with other nations who have been cooperating to create an economy backed by gold with the plan of its being valued greater than the US dollar to gain world economic power. President Trump and team have been working to protect the U.S. from such a loss of world dominance, while also seeking to help other nations secure their own sovereignty and place in world power. This is in part why decisions by the United Nations and their crony organizations on a host of topics are being challenged today. Please keep all of this in mind as Dr. Scott Young and I discuss current events that seem to reveal we are much closer to a complete economic and government overhaul than we realize, which will give us much reason for celebration and is expected to bring us into financial freedom and prosperity such as we've never seen. Now, here's part one of my interview with Dr. Scott Young. Dr. Scott Young, I have wanted to have you on before today, but this is the first chance we could make it work. And actually, I think it's the best time because there are so many things happening right now that are bubbling to the surface. I mean, we are hearing different people in key positions speaking of events and things having to do with the IRS or having to do with quantum financial or having to do with inflation. I mean, there's just a lot of things that seem to be percolating right now. So I would like you to help bring it all into perspective, kind of frame it up for us for what's happening right now, and then we'll talk about what we can look forward to.
Right. I mean, you're absolutely right because, for 5.5 years, we've been yammering on this topic, right? And yes, there were some evidences in the background and we had some ideas and some thoughts. But ever since Trump, I would say somewhere in the time frame when Trump was campaigning heavily, what would that be in 2024? When he started to really push the idea, and I think I would say when he said something about no taxes on tips. That's my like, there we go, baby. We're on, game is on in essence, right? And I just saw that as like, holy cow, no one caught it. I keep going back to that one, and I mean, I laugh at it, because Kamala goes off and says, "Oh, we're gonna do that too. No tax on tips too. Yeah, yeah, yeah," and she had no idea what he was even saying, and as a business owner, I mean, I just did payroll because it's near the end of the month here, and when they say no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, which is base payroll. I mean, that's what that would be. Okay. And then there's thirdly, it said no tax on overtime. What tips are is tips would be like bonuses. Tips are bonuses or commissions or any kinds of things like that. That's actually how they're calculated in a payroll situation. Okay. So in essence, when he was talking about that, he was talking to payroll companies. And most people had no idea he was talking about that. And so, and by the way, any IRS person was probably perking up when they heard that. And yet I heard several semi-IRS commentators on YouTube that were saying, well, this is how he's going to do that. And I'm like, dude, listen with your critical ears. I'm not even talking about your spiritual ears, but your critical ears. There's no way to actually do those three things without killing the IRS. I mean, because when you flow through to if the average American makes, $50,000, $60,000, pick the number you want to do, what happens is that let's say you make $60,000 and you work some overtime, so you get time and a half, right? And let's say you have some level of bonuses with your boss, right? What happens is that the IRS doesn't care about that number. You don't get taxed differently on any one of those areas. So what happens is that it comes out as 60K, and then you get, state tax, federal taxation, and then you have Medicare and Social Security. So those are the basic four things that are popped out of your taxation and your when you look at your W-2 at the end, right? And so when they were doing that, what he was saying in essence, and he was telling you right between your teeth, that's no IRS. And as soon as he said that, and then other people would say, like sidelong statements. Well, maybe that's like not having the IRS. And there's a guy named Howard Lutnick and Secretary of Commerce. And he starts saying things like, well, we're not going to tax up to, anyone up to 150K. Well, then, oh, we're not going to do any up to 200K. And what happens to most people is they go, well, so if what if I make 151,000, then I'm not going to be taxed? And we want like, 5 plus 5 equals 10, right? I mean, all of us just tell me what you're trying to say, Mr. Trump, right? We
Mm-hmm.
want the like, just break it down, buddy. Because we have to like, really look at it. By the way, I just finished a book on the tribulation. Um, it's going to be an interactive, not an interactive book like pop-up pictures, but there's pictures all over it, right? And all the kinds of stuff on there. It's the most interactive book I've really kind of done. And the tribulation, most people don't like reading it because it takes a lot of effort to read it, as opposed to a lot of other portions of scripture, because you have to look at the first coming and the second coming and all the things around that, right? And John is talking about things that don't actually. I mean, he's looking at things that are hard to explain, right? Well, in Trump is kind of doing a little John type of situation, a little Daniel. He's giving you clues to the story, but he's not telling you directly out there. I'm not saying he's John. I'm not saying he's Daniel here, but he's giving you the clue. Now, if you just kill off the IRS, you know what you do? You wipe out what Congress can do. I mean, that's $4.7 trillion of what happens inside of Congress. And see, and if you listen to any Congress or senator, they'll tell you, oh, well, that's how we pay for roads and schools and everything else. And I go, no, it's not. I mean, that's the whole point. What Elon Musk told us and showed us is the Doge portion of that. When I did a deep dive on a lot of the Doge stuff, do you know what was inside of there? It's fascinating. Um, Inside of each one of those areas, and I'm going to miss exactly which agency was, but it was like these little agencies, and he would go in there, find that this agency had nothing to do with doing what they were supposed to do, and they were paying some private agency billions of dollars to do stuff. And you're going, wait a second, how come I don't get billions of dollars from the government to do this silly thing that they never actually finalized doing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what he did is he ripped the money out of their hands. And I asked this question, how is he possibly doing that? I mean, how come we've never seen this level of transparency?
Right.
You know what it is? It's the quantum financial system. He is utilizing the quantum financial system, the blockchain quantum financial system, and what we're going to see in the future is the blockchain quantum financial system for governmental agencies is going to be completely open and transparent. Let me give you an example. Let's say Pam Christian has a $40,000 contract with her town to do roses. I'm making up something, just say she does roses, right? And she's doing roses for her city. And and she has a contract to do that. Now, they would be able that, let's say the city planners around her, would actually be able to go in and go, she's getting paid 40K for that kind of thing. And they would be able to see it. They'd be able to see the payments to her. And you go, well, that's not very, that's not very nice to be able to see all the payments that she's getting. Well, that's what happens when you do a government contract. It should be fully transparent.
Absolutely.
And listen, if Pam, you start messing up and you only deliver to them $13,000 instead of 40K, guess what? I'm ripping your contract back from you. And so that's exactly what Doge was.
Right.
And that's what we're going to see is this level of transparency. But what the quantum financial system really is going to be for each single person out there, it's going to be completely sovereign, done by the United States Treasury, but it's going to be completely completely private for the private citizen. If I don't have a government contract, no one's going to be able to see it. And this is the part if you talked to me 5 years ago and said, explain that part from the government to the private one, I would never have believed it.
Mm-hmm.
I would have said, oh, you got to be kidding me. I wouldn't have seen it. But that's the portion of the Doge stuff that's actually showing you. So that when he's telling you, when we started to hear about the Doge thing, and he said, I mean, Elon said, I'm going to save $1 to $2 trillion. And by the way, the big beautiful bill is saving $1.6 trillion. So guess what? It'll probably save a lot more than that, but he's saying it in that particular one. It is going to happen.
Okay. All right. You have said a lot, but I want to break it down even further. Tell me if I'm wrong on this. But toward the whole effort of completely restructuring our economic system and getting us back to a gold-backed system, one of the first things that needed to be done was waking up the people.
Yeah.
So we heard President Trump talk in code and different languages that made us scratch our heads and made us dig and research, right? So that we would understand it. And as you pointed out, one of the first things that really piqued us was when he said no tax on tips. All right. By saying no tax on tips, as you pointed out, it really has to do more with your entire tax bracket.
Right.
So my first question for you then, let's say a person is in I'll say a 20% tax bracket.
Right.
Once we get to the gold-backed system and we have no tax on tips and we have all of this adjusted, and I will interject here, I believe that the Doge effort was essential to be done up front to expose the waste, to help people understand that we really can do what President Trump is trying to accomplish.
Sure.
Giving us hope through the process, letting us see it. So now I have an income where I used to have to pay 20% in taxes between the feds and the states. And now that 20% is gone. I now have 20% more of my own income left in my pocket, correct?
Yeah. It's so cool. I mean, and here's the cool thing that will happen to you. So let's say it's probably a lot higher than that, because I mean, Pam, you're being low on that number because it's a lot lower. I mean, it's a lot higher than that. But let's just use your number, right? And for Scott's easy math words here, okay. So let's say you got $100,000 and it's 20 percent, which not the number, but let's just use it, right? So $20,000, right, is taken away in taxation. Well, guess what? Now you don't have to pay that. Number one. Number two, when we're in a gold-backed currency, the number two thing that comes out is that there's no more inflation. So now Instead of worrying about inflation, this inflation deflation issue. I mean, a friend of mine, Mark Z, he and I talk about this all the time. You know, they tell you in economic schools all the time that inflation and deflation is like death and taxes. It'll be with you forever. And the answer is inflation and deflation is a lie. It's built in fiat systems. When they expand the money supply, which they've been doing like there's no tomorrow. And by the way, in the cabal standpoint from 2020 on, there was no tomorrow.
Right.
They have expanded the money from 2020 on. They have added 80% of every piece of a currency. If you calculated every piece of currency and a fiat currency from 1913 to 2025, 80% of every piece of currency ever created was created in the last 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
That is a crazy number. It's so out of balance. It's so out of bounds. It's not even funny. And yet, why aren't eggs and bacon and everything else, 800% higher in price? Well, eggs might be, but you get the idea. But why isn't everything? Because President Trump and the military have actually been controlling them a bit. So what they really have been doing, the cabal have really been doing, is using monopoly money. Okay. But when we see this go to a gold-backed standard, you already said you're not paying your taxes because that's gone. Number two, you'll see inflation go to zero. And you go, well, what is that going to do for me? What happens is that instantly the value of your money goes up dramatically. And so prices will fall so quickly, it's not even funny. Now, some prices that are, don't have an asset point value, meaning like for instance, an iPhone has a lot of parts that are put in it, for instance, but something that doesn't have a backing to it, for instance, health insurance. It's a fake value that it is in there. It's so fake, it's not even funny. Those kinds of things will have a very quick right down the tubes in change in value. So one of the things you'll see is that you'll see those kinds of things shrink in price so dramatically, and it'll be partly because of a gold-backed currency and partly because there's no more inflation.
I'll stop the podcast here for today and pick up at this point for next week with part 2 of my 3-part interview with Dr. Scott Young. Next week, we'll get into Dr. Scott's explanation of what we can expect for the housing market that will revive the American dream of home ownership. Although we talk about examples from the United States perspective, remember, the NESARA concepts are expected to be realized globally. Make a point of listening and gaining insights for your personal economic strategies. Now, I ask you to listen to my closing announcements and to take advantage of the many goods and services I bring you in an effort to at least cover the costs of this podcast. The first announcement clarifies more about the changes in our Greece tour, now scheduled for April 2026, and I really want you to be able to join us, so please listen carefully and send me the email to save your place. It may seem far off, but most people make plans for a significant vacation about a year in advance. So, if you haven't already expressed interest in traveling with us in April 2026, now is the time to do so. We want to have about 30 people total because this size group works best for the specific tour I have in mind. We'll be walking the footsteps of the Apostle Paul. I'm using the time between now and October 2025 to determine if we have enough interest, and the trend indicates we definitely should. We have just about 30 people on the list now, but I'd like to have more because when it comes to the actual day of making a commitment, things could have changed, and I want to be able to have at least 30 actually attend the tour. So, if you think you'd like to be part of the Faith to Live By Christian tour with me in Greece during April 2026, Now's the time to get your name and number in your party on the list. There's no obligation at this point, you're just expressing your interest. Attendees need to arrange their own air travel to and from the Athens International Airport. To get your name on the list, send an email to faithtoliveby@PamelaChristianMinistries.com with the word Greece in the subject line. In the body of the email, provide your name, contact information, and number of people you expect to be in your party. This will place your name on the interested in attending list, but does not obligate you in any way. It merely assures you have first right of refusal when down payments are due. If you didn't get the details written down that I just shared, simply visit my Beyond the Podcast page using the link in the show notes. If you like what you hear from me with this podcast, I highly recommend my book series, my award-winning blog, and consider signing up for my certificate course in apologetics. My aim with that course is to help people learn how not only to use apologetics to share truth with others, but to help Christian leaders incorporate apologetics into their respective ministries so more Christians are learning how to share their faith. You can learn more by using the link in the show notes. For now, I offer my weekly podcasts, my blog, and bi-monthly e-newsletter at no cost. And certainly I have hard costs associated with doing all I do. If you've been blessed by my work and would like to help my work reach others, why not consider partnering with me? For as little as $10 a month, you can become a partner. Then together we can reach even more people for Jesus. Simply visit my Pamela Christian Ministries homepage and then click on the Give button at the top menu bar. Or if you prefer, you can go directly to the Give page using the link in the show notes. To become a partner, you can use my PayPal or Venmo account, but you will also see other ways you can support my work on that page. Whether you choose to become a monthly partner, give a one-time donation, purchase my books and products from my web store, or support my affiliate sponsors, anything you can do to help me continue this work would be greatly appreciated. And as always, your prayers and telling others about me and my ministry work is much needed. When it comes to my selection of affiliate sponsors, I first look for Christian-owned and operated businesses, and I make a point of personally using the products or services so I can fully endorse them. I seek sponsors that offer products or services you can get via the internet worldwide, and I specifically consider what is common to most people universally. So you'll find health, beauty, and wellness products through Dr. Zelenko's Z-Stack supplements and from QE Strong. Dr. Zelenko's Z-Stack supplements are truly amazing and are available to my listeners for a 5% discount per purchase or a 10% discount for a monthly subscription using the promo code FTLB. You may have heard my interview with Rob Renee about QE Strong. Discover the benefits of quantum energy to overcome all sorts of ailments. Visit QEstrong.com and use the promo code FTLB at checkout to receive your discount. Then my newest affiliate I'm really excited to bring you is Q Streaming. That's CUE Streaming Television. People with United States addresses can get over 3,000 channels, including live TV with streaming television without a contract. Get all of your local networks and favorite movie and sports and pay-per-view channels for about half of what cable costs. See the video promo link in the show notes to learn more. Affiliate sponsors only provide financial support to me when you purchase what they offer. So before you support Amazon or any other retailer, if I offer what you're looking for, please purchase through me. When it comes to special occasions, birthdays, or Christmas gifts, consider my books, jewelry, CDs, and more from my web store or any of the affiliate goods and services I offer. When you purchase from my web store, be sure to use the promo code TRUTH, TRUTH, to receive a 20% discount. Again, you'll find all the links in the show notes. If you like the content and resource material I bring you with this podcast, you'll find much more by connecting with me through my blog. In fact, my blog has been awarded 2 unsolicited awards for Christian content. And I'm also very active on social media. I can cover much more on social media than I can with this weekly podcast. And if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe to my complimentary bi-monthly e-newsletter. I offer encouragement, special offers, and one of my signature recipes with each and every edition. Yep, I'm a foodie and I love to entertain, which is why Faith, Family, Friends, and Food is a bonus segment of my bi-monthly e-newsletter. To receive even more, please be sure to check out my dedicated podcast listeners page, Beyond the Podcast. Here's where we can connect exclusively and you can download complimentary devotionals, resources, and more. On that page, I also ask you to help me learn more about you and what you want by completing the form visible once you scroll down that page. And something that is very easy for you to do and would mean a lot to me is for you to rate, subscribe, or comment on this podcast according to what your preferred listening platform allows. You know how it works. The more likes and subscriptions to this podcast, the more opportunity we have to expand the listening audience. And that means we can reach more people with the gospel message of Jesus while helping people learn how to better apply their Christian faith. I hope you'll join me next week and tell your friends and family to listen right here on Faith to Live By, where we learn how to gain spiritual victory over life's issues. Until next week, I'm Pam Christian, asking you to remember Christ died for us. The least we can do is live for Him.